Welcome everyone to the Jimmy Rex Show. Um, that really should be, this should be this podcast. You're the one that's been doing this for a while. I'm so excited to have you today with us, Jimmy. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it's exciting to be here on the other end of the podcast. So thanks, Maria.
You can be schooling all of us on how to have amazing, successful podcasts, because yours are really, really awesome.
You know what though? Like on that note, like I sat on my idea for 6 months because I didn't think I was qualified to do it or would have a good enough podcast. And frankly, 10 of my first 20 episodes, the audio just wasn't even that good. But Gary Vaynerchuk, what was always in my mind, he's like, you got to just start somewhere. And, so that's what I did. And now I've had over 130 guests on my podcast that have a blue check mark in one way or another doing amazing things. And this morning I was talking to a hero from, a Green Beret guy that saved all these kids in Afghanistan. It opened these doors, but it all starts with just screwing it up at the beginning. So like I honor anybody, no matter where they're at in their podcast, because it doesn't have to be perfect. It's one of the mistakes we think is action is simply, you get better by doing it, not by talking about doing it,
Oh, I love that. And actually we were just testing my mic and it wasn't working. So we just went on, on the phone and we're doing it this way. So I fully agree with you. It's just taking the action to actually start doing something. Yeah. So I want to share with everyone, Jimmy really is an extraordinary person. He is the epitome of living life by fulfillment. So he is, I want to tell you, Jimmy, before I moved part-time to California, I had a lot of people that were like, how are you going to do this? How are you just going to abandon your company? And all of their limiting beliefs really show up when they get scared for you on something that you're willing to take the risk on and just truly live the life that you desire. And you're like the king of doing whatever it is that you want in life, and the adventures that you take and the travel that you do. And I feel that you are really the perfect example to like show people that you really can create life by design. And I want to just take it back a little bit to for our listeners to know how we met each other now. And feel free to jump in, right, throughout the experience. But I knew all about you. I've been in the industry since 2006. And, with your story, please share when you started all this. But I'd heard about you. We're around the same age and we're both super driven people. And I always admired your work and everything that you've done. You're one of the top real estate agents in the state of Utah, and you just keep killing it and growing. And in 2016, I attended Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny. And all of a sudden I go to get water or something and I see you and I'm like, that is the Jimmy Rex. Like Jimmy Rex is here and we get to share this experience together. So I came and officially introduced myself to you. And then, oh boy, did we have this unexplainable experience at this event. We got to know a lot about each other, a lot about other people that surrounded us, and you really go deep and you're vulnerable, and it's really unexplainable, these experiences that you share. But it quickly brought me really close to you in a sense of I feel like I knew you deeper than probably a lot of other people that just see the Jimmy on the outside. So that was very special. And then from then on, we just continued to stay in touch, and I've seen what you've done, and I'm just super proud of you, and just lucky to know you. So that's how I met Jimmy. I don't know if you'd like to add to more of that.
Well, yeah, no, that was a really life-changing event for me. I was going through a complete life transition at that point where I was trying to find out the purpose for my life or what it was going to be going forward. And I went to that event. I'd been doing a lot of Tony stuff. I'd had some coaching with a Tony coach, and she really encouraged me to go to that. And it was at that event that I really found out the purpose for my life, what I was going to do, what was going to drive everything I do going forward. Because at that event, you really rip apart your past, your present, your future, and kind of figure out what is your purpose, what is your vision, what are your, what are the values that you really appreciate, what's your primary question, all those things. And my life purpose, which is to share my love with all of God's children, sharing happiness with others through my playful soul by being an example of living an extraordinary life. I came up with that at that event, and that has driven everything I've done since then, which is like you talked about, that kind of stepping into an uncomfortable, situation, sometimes trying new things like you're doing with the podcast. That really is what has driven that for me. And that's opened up doors for me that have really allowed me to do some extraordinary things the last couple of years that I never would have, stepped into that unknown without that event, without that life mission.
Wow, how powerful and important, that was for you and for me. I had similar experiences, and it's fun. It's fun to have this knowledge and have had the access to some of those experiences, because it makes us who we are, and it's shaped you into who you are. Absolutely. So I would love to, begin with you just sharing a little bit of your story. I mean, you really have so many things and so much depth to you that we could really go deep into for hours, but due to time and obviously honoring your time and everyone's time, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your story. Tell us a little.
Yeah, so I got into real estate in 2005. Before then, so I did an LDS mission when I was 19, got home when I was 21, and I wanted to make money. I didn't know what that looked like. I started selling steak and chicken door to door while I was going to school, and I was making $500 to $1,000 a day selling chicken door to door, which was kind of a fun moment in life, because the day you realize that your worst case scenario is making six figures and going door to door, all of a sudden your mind starts to expand quite a bit. I had a buddy that worked at like
chicken.
Prosper. Yeah, I was that guy. So, but so I had a buddy that worked at Prosper, which is a company that sells online coaching. They sold Carlton Sheets and Robert Allen and Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Poor Dad series and all that. And I listened to those CDs. He got some of those for me, and it really sparked my curiosity in real estate. And so in 2005, I got my license. Was still doing the meat company. I did a TV show, I just kind of was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And through all that, I ended up, landing in real estate. But when I started real estate, I had to shut down the meat company. Long story short, my old partner had done some really bad things. He stole a bunch of money. We had franchised the company to this guy in St. George named Martin, giving us his life savings, this guy from Argentina, and Herman left with the money and bought a bunch of drugs. I had no idea. That was my meat partner.
Wow.
And so when I started in real estate, I mean, my first 6 months, I did like 3 deals. And then that all kind of happened. And I mean, it hit the fan pretty hard. And I got stuck with $120,000 debt. I needed to pay this guy in St. George back right away. So I knew I was going to go to jail. I mean, we'd taken his money, but I didn't know what I was doing. We were still in the process of getting the lawyers when my partner took the money. And I just told the guy, I'm going to pay. I called everyone. I was like, I'll pay you all back. I need time. I'm in real estate. But it ended up being my greatest blessing, because my back was so far up against the wall that I had to come out swinging. So I signed up for Mike Ferry coaching. That was, a story in and of itself. And he gave this system that works if you do it. I mean, it's really hard to do because it's very rigorous. But I mean, I would get on, to my office every day. I would role play and study scripts. And then I'd get on the phones, and I did this for 5 years straight, but I'd get on the phones from 8 to 11 every single day. I never missed. And
just for our listeners real quick that are not used to the real estate world, Mike Ferry is probably the pioneer of the coaching in our industry. And so, he was one of the first that implemented this whole coaching aspect into real estate. So side note.
Mike's the guy on all that stuff. He is, his system, it works. It's a very difficult system to stay consistent with, because it's very time consuming. You literally you get rejected 30, 40 times a day, but you get an appointment out of that. And if you do it every day consistently over the course of a year, you'll sell a lot of homes. So his average client was selling 50 deals. When I heard that, long story short, I ended up signing up. By the end of that first year, I'd sold 60 homes using his system. Year 2, I sold 98 houses with one assistant. I was one of the 2 finalists for salesperson to be on the Select Board of Realtors. And from there,
which is incredible, you guys. I know I keep interrupting, but you have to understand that your average real estate agent sells like 4 houses a year. And so Jimmy, just going through his numbers, like he's so used to just probably sharing this part of his story, but just the acknowledgement that I want to give to you, because that is just unheard of. Like 60 transactions your first year is just not something that the everyday agent does. Like that's what people are doing when they're like top producing, you know. So that just goes to show you your like hustle, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was. My back was really against the wall. Like, I don't say that like I had so much debt, and I honestly thought I might go to jail if I couldn't pay. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew that I was in a position where, you know, in my mind, debt was the worst thing you could have, and I had more than every one of my friends combined, and it was like I had to do some things to get rid of it. And so I came out. I mean, I fell asleep in my suit 3 times. That woke up in the morning still wearing my suit from the night before, like sitting on the couch or something. If I sat down and rested, I felt, you know, I really worked so hard. But then even worse was, as soon as I finally got ahead again, 2006, 2007, the real estate market collapses. So 2008, 9, 10 were even harder. And I kind of got burned out from that system. I mean, I listed so many houses for sale by owners. And so I kind of made this switch, and I started really working to kind of speed up the story. But I developed a system with my coach, Bill Pipes, who's the top real estate coach in the country. Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, he's great.
I was lucky enough, because of my success at a young age, Bill would put me on stages when he would do the Mike Ferry events. And so I got to kind of talk about how I did this in front of thousands of people. But me and Bill developed a relationship. He's, you know, one of my closest friends to this day. But, and so he and I set up this system that kind of, instead of was prospecting and door knocking and cold calling all day, we've made this transition to spoiling our clients, networking, high-end social media with intent, and all these different things. And that's the system I use today, which, you know, last year, to give you an idea, my team now, we just added 2 new agents, but last year my team had 4 real estate agents, and we closed 327 deals. I think I was number 1 in Utah County, and I was number 1 in Keller Williams in Utah. There's over 2,000.
Boom! So congratulations.
It was the first year, at least in commission, I was. That's the only one that matters, I guess. But
amazing,
no,
amazing.
And I did that because of this system that is, instead of trying to pull people to me all day long, that's what, you know, Mike's system is, and it works. But eventually you get really tired of pulling everybody. Then, you know, what I teach now, because I've developed now, I have my own coaching program around what I've done, is it's attracting people to you as opposed to pulling them to you, which is really tiresome. So that's kind of what I've done over the last couple of years, what I've really expanded into with social media and client parties and charity work, vacations with my friends, all those kinds of things.
That's incredible. Congratulations on your success. And I agree with you. I'm right there with my business too, of like, how do I attract people rather than the hardcore sales, you know, mentality. I think our generation's really, and the younger generation's really moving towards that. So it's important that we connect differently, right? Your branding's incredible. I think that you know, if you could teach a branding class as well, because it's just, you know, high level, really high level.
Well, I do. That is a lot of what I'm teaching. Like my mastermind, you know, it's a 12-week mastermind. And one of the weeks I spent an hour just talking about how I've been able to brand myself as the market expert, like really the strategy that went behind it. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. And I honestly started doing that because so many people kept saying, dude, like, you know, I hear all the time, like, okay, like even top agents around the country will call me. They're like, dude, I know that like I probably make more money or sell more homes than you, but I'm jealous. Like you seem like you're always playing and always on. And I did, like last year, on my best year ever, I took 127 days on vacation. I visited 22 countries, and, you know, I did some amazing things. And so I have set up a system that allows you to do it. What we think we're getting into in real estate, like when we actually sign up for it, that's what I've built. And I only did that because, frankly, I didn't want to do real estate if I had to do it any longer the way that Mike teaches it, which I love him. That man changed my life forever, but I could not do that anymore. I was burnt out. I hated it. And so I just set up a system because that's the way that what I wanted to do.
No, I completely hear you. You know, and I want to get into that part of Jimmy Rex, is this lifestyle. But before we go to that, I just want to ask you, if there are agents out there that want to join this mastermind that you're talking about, how could they join?
Yeah, so we closed it. We're on week 4, week 5 now for this particular mastermind. I'm going to do it 3 times a year. It's a 12-week mastermind. If they go to agentsplaybook.com, agents, that's pluralplaybook.com. They can get a free copy of my book that I came out with last year, and then that'll put you in my funnel. And then I will send you occasional emails where you'll see the other stuff that I have coming up. I have a course that it's 60 days. It's a 60-day challenge where every day it sends you a new video I made with a homework assignment to build your business exactly like I did. I sell that basically for, it's like $60. I basically give it away because I want to show people that this works. As they do it, they'll want more information. And so I have a social media course. I'm building a luxury homes course. I sold the most expensive home in the history of Utah last year with $32 million. And I sold over a dozen luxury homes.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm teaching that now as well. There is a strategy to it. For 8 years, I couldn't sell a house over $1 million. Last year, I sold like almost 15 of them. So
you really broke the ceiling on that one.
Well, there's
you
a
really
way to do
went
it,
there.
and it's just learning it. Honestly, it's kind of funny. It's actually easier to sell those homes than the small ones, but in a lot of cases. But my main mastermind, I'll open up. I think the next one we're going to do is going to start on April 8th. But if you go to that, again, agentsplaybook.com, you can kind of sign up into my system. And then from there, be looking for we'll start releasing it in probably, a month or 6 weeks. We'll start releasing the next mastermind so people can join in April.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. And I want to get to your book eventually because you told me a little bit about it, about Dinner with Spring. And I think it's just so smart what you've done and just all the information, how you captured all this data. But before we do that, let's get into the good stuff, which is your lifestyle that everyone is just jealous of or craves it or wish that they could live, this life just full of adventure and travel. And, you're swimming with white sharks and next thing I know, you're in probably every place that I ever desired to travel to. And I'm a big traveler. It's a big passion of mine as well. But, share with us, when did you start just really creating this life by design and you thinking, okay, all the success in the world is awesome and it's so much fun, but I really want to live my life to the fullest. And what inspired you to just really go for it? And despite of everyone else telling you, how are you going to do that? When are you going to do that? You don't have time for that, right? Because I've gotten some of it and you're at different levels, but tell us all about this.
So there's a couple different pivotal points, and I'll kind of talk because I just talked about the first one, which was 2010 when I was burned out and I had to make some changes. So that was the first step with Bill, that meeting where we designed it a little bit differently. And that was very strategic to work with my network and work with people that had money, because back then nobody really had money to buy anything. And so we kind of set up a strategy around that. And then in 2012, I decided I needed to leave Utah to try something different. And I decided to go get my master's degree in real estate from Arizona State. I wanted to go down there, just try something new, open up my life to new people, kind of put myself out there. Even though I was the #1 agent in my office, it was good. I was top 5 agent in the county. Things were working, but I just felt I needed something different. And so I had to set up my team strategically to run without me being here. I was going to be gone for 9 months, and I was in class every day from 8 to 2 o'clock, Monday through Friday. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to be here to go on appointments and show buyers. So it forced me, I had about 10 months to set it up. And so I forced me to get my team set up the right way, my admin, my systems, my buyer's agent. And that was a blessing because I even learned to take listings over the phone. And I had heard of one agent that did that before at a Mike Ferry event. And I was like, yeah, right. You can't take listings over the phone. Because back then I was just calling for sell by owners. But when you have warm leads, you absolutely can. And so I set up this system to run without me physically being in Utah. And that year, 2013, I had my best year ever. I sold 185 homes, I think, at that time was my best year I'd ever had. And a lot of that happened because I learned to leverage myself and leverage my team. And so I found the right people, got them built up, helped them, learn what to do and how to do that. And so that was the first step when I went, wow, this is really powerful. Well, then I started going on these vacations and trips with friends. I'd been doing that. And I started looking at where all my deals came from. And I couldn't believe how many deals I had met that person on, like a couple's trip to Lake Powell or some kind of cabin trip. Like it was like half my deals were coming from people I met literally going on vacation. So I said, there's something here. And so I started purposely doing that, setting up vacations. And I bought a houseboat in 2013. I started throwing a couple trips every summer where I'd get 30 to 50 people on a houseboat trip. And I started building my network. There's something powerful that happens, when you work with people out of town, when you go out of town with people, and B, when you do charity work with people. And so I really put a focus on those two things. I said, I'm going to work really heavy with some charity stuff. I started doing sub for Santa. I started doing work with Operation Underground Railroad. I started working with, all these different organizations, Mission 60, some of these military groups that, and I started really coming with any skill or ability I had to create value for them. And I was making amazing connection after amazing connection. And like the guy that bought the house this year, the $32 million house, is a guy named Trevor Milton. He owns a company called Nikola Motors. I met him on a houseboat trip in Lake Powell. And then we became close friends on a trip where 30 of us went to Hawaii together. So like, I just, and that dude actually found the house himself. And he basically called me and said, hey, come check out this house. I'm going to buy it. It's like a mountain range up in Oakley. And he bought that place and put my name on the contract, basically. It was the biggest commission check ever written in Utah. Wow. And I got it literally because of my friendship with this guy. And so long story short, that system is, I just strategically started doing that about 2013, 14 again. And I've been doing that ever since. So I always say it's not so much a system as it is a way of being. I'm always looking for opportunities. So like this last weekend's a good example. I just got back from Vegas. Me and 8 of my close friends just opened up a Mexican restaurant called Mas Por Favor.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to go to this place. So it's in Las Vegas, right?
It's in Las Vegas, and it's an amazing little restaurant. And honestly, I just did that to have a cool thing to do with my friends. Like one of those guys has referred me a buyer that bought a $5 million house. One of my partners closes February 6th on a $3 million house. And so like I invested some money with these groups just to honestly like spend the time with them and have the access and stuff like that. So it's very strategic.
What's the name of the restaurant again? Because I want to go next time I'm in Vegas. Tell me one more time the name.
Mas Por Favor, which means more, please.
Mas Por Favor. I'll say it to you in Spanish.
Yes, that is it.
Really? No, that's so awesome. I'm like, of course he has a restaurant. Like, what else? What else?
Yeah, no, it's just, and again, it's just a fun, I'm a very small owner. I'm one of the investors in it, but at the same time, it's like just doing things like this. So every week, so like this week, I'm going to Fiji I'm going to a Tony Robbins event to meet more people. And, like a couple of weeks ago, in fact, it was last week, middle of the week, my buddy Dave, who owns Entrada Software here in Utah, is one of my best friends. He was having his bachelor party. We rented a cabin in Park City, and like 20 of us went up and slept over, and we played poker and had a riot, just had a good time. I'm doing this stuff all the time as a way of being. It's not, you can't just do a couple things and expect these deals to come in. But if you're always creating value, introducing people, a couple months ago, like 2 months ago, I had a really cool moment. 5 of my close friends were down in Vegas together. I wasn't. And the waitress asked them, hey, how do you guys all know each other? And every single one of them had met the other one through me. And they all kind of had this moment. And the waitress was like, who is this Jimmy guy? I got to meet this guy, But it was cool to like think about that. Like people know that. People recognize the value I've created, these close friendships they have in their life because of what I've, the effort and time I've put into connecting people. Like I went to Topgolf a month ago. That's so easy to do. And I just invited 6 random friends that didn't know each other. By the time the night's over, one of them was writing the cover for the other dude's book, and the forward, and the other dude was training the other guy's daughter. And it was like, it's really cool. And so I'm just looking for opportunities. It's so easy to do, but it takes a little bit extra effort, and most people are just kind of lazy with how they're building their business. I've done this strategically for 15 years, especially for the last 5. And that's how I've been able to build a raving fan base that allows me to sell homes, whether I'm in Utah or Fiji or wherever I'm at on vacation. I can do that as long as I keep working while I travel and stuff like that.
Incredible. I want to just expand a little bit on your connections, because you're obviously a huge connector. And the beauty of really who you surround yourself with matters, and it's everything to me. And how you keep scaling that and like elevating the groups of people that you're surrounding yourself with, and that creates more opportunity, that creates better conversations, that creates for you to start thinking just differently. And I know that your network is very high level, and so I just want to really touch on that because of how important it's been for me. And I'm sure it's obviously been super important for you, and never would you have thought that also equals like more business opportunities. You just being who you are, you're being larger than life. You're doing the things that are passionate to you in your life. And at the same time, you're connecting these extraordinary people with each other. And then I'm sure that it just makes life so much better and so much more fun. And, just the importance of who you surround yourself with.
Well, I always say, even if I don't sell any homes, it's a really fun way to live.
Absolutely.
The real estate's a bonus, Yeah.
I love that. Thanks for going into that, and just creating the possibility and opening people's minds that if you want to do something in your life, and you want to live in two places, and if you want to travel more, and that, I'm telling you that you can. It is possible. You can do it. You can't allow other people to shut that down for you. Don't let it block it. Like, Jimmy is the perfect example, you guys, of how you can create that, and many people in life do big things and do travel. And
what you kind of realize as you get older too, what I've realized is you only regret the stuff you didn't do. You really do. Like, all the stuff, even when I fell on my face, that is my story now. Like, I did a TV show that I ended up losing money on. I did the meat company, lost my ass on. Like, all those things became my story. Even when I lost all my money in real estate at the beginning, and, I gave away my first $2 million I tried to invest. I mean, all these things went wrong. And I'm like, I look at it now and I'm like, what a beautiful mess, that creates a life. And I'm actually just finished writing my second book with one of my best friends. His name's Cameron Carling. It's called You End Up Where You're Headed: The Hidden Dangers of Living a Safe Life. And what it is the end of people's lives on their deathbeds, when people are asked, like, what's your biggest regret or whatever, they always say the things they didn't do, or the love they didn't give, or the risk they didn't take. And so what the whole book is about is just putting yourself out there. It's like being an explorer and really, going into the unknown and that uncharted territory where there's a lot of risk, but there's so much reward. And to me, it's like, the only failure is not trying something. The only failure, I know that's cliche, but the only failure truly is to just play it safe. Like, I have no problem if I lose everything. I don't care, because I'm gonna have so much damn fun one way or another. I'll learn so much from that. And and by putting yourself out there, you really only have to nail it a couple times in life, with a spouse, with a job, and with an investment, and you're pretty set. You can screw up a lot of things. And so it's the people that never take those risks or never put themselves out there that actually end up losing out on all the flavor of life, all the beauty that it has.
The zest. I love that so much. For the Tony Robbins fans and the 6 human needs that he teaches. And I know we talked about this at dinner when we went with Spring a few months back, maybe a year ago, but you shared with us that your number one need in life is variety, right?
Yeah.
And so the uncertainty, is Jimmy's number one need. And so it makes sense, right? That you're willing to take all the risks, that adventure, the last minute things that, and I think it's so fun.
I think it's important to recognize that everyone has that need. I think just, you get to decide how you cultivate your own needs. Everyone has the need for uncertainty. Actually. So at some level,
what's interesting though, that a lot of people are very uncomfortable with uncertainty. I actually used to be.
I am too. That's the beauty of it. It's not like I have this special thing. Like, I just have learned about the rewards that come with leaning into the uncertainty. Like, I still get nervous. I'm still like, but the beauty of that, it's not like I am immune to it. It's like people that run, they think that runners don't have some superpower where they don't get tired. The Iron Cowboy Lawrence was on my podcast. This guy's the most extraordinary athlete in the history of the world. He did 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days. It's the most amazing feat ever done by humanity. And he said, I still hurt as much as I did the first time I started running. I still get as tired as I did the first time I started running. I'm not immune to this. I simply have learned how to deal with it. He's like, people think, well, yeah, you're James, Lawrence. Of course you can go do this. He's like, no, it still hurts as much for me as it does for you. I've just simply learned to deal with that. And so I think it's important to recognize that I'm not unique in the sense that I can go do this because I have some weird superpower where I'm not afraid of anything. Like, it's just simply I've chosen to do it enough times, and every time I did it, from the first time I did something uncomfortable and got a reward from it, I was like, oh, like you go up and talk to the pretty girl and she actually gives you your number. You're like, oh, I'm going to do that more often. That was a good reward. Or you go up to the old lady and try to sell her something as a kid and she buys it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to go pitch more stuff. Like you just kind of, as you do it, you know, like calling for sell by owners. Oh my gosh. I remember staring at the phone for 2 hours before I called the first one. I was terrified. And by the time I picked up the phone and called 10 people, I was even more terrified because it went horribly the first time. And, you know, eventually I went from, I would call 70 for sell by owners to get an appointment. Eventually I got that down to 1 out of 12 people I called, I could get an appointment. And I didn't care who was on the other end of that call. I had one goal to get the appointment. It didn't start with that though. I had to get there by getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. So good. I used to actually at our Tony Robbins event, when I got there, I realized that I wanted certainty in my life, so much certainty. That was one of my top 2. And then I realized how unhappy I was in that. And so it quickly switched to the uncertainty. And those have been my best moments in life, you know, and when you don't have something planned and when there is the uncomfortableness of being uncertain, not knowing what's going to happen next and just enjoying that. So thanks for sharing that with all of us. And
well, and I tell people, if you're afraid, like find the humor in it, you know, like it's funny. Like it's funny to absolutely like fall on your ass trying something new. It's funny to get your butt kicked trying to do something. Like I went to Brazil 15 years ago with a couple buddies, and we were a mess. We were going everywhere, trying everything. And it was the funnest trip of all time. I mean, we had no money, but we were making it work. We were walking places and we'd find ourselves in the most random situations and things I can't even talk about. And then I went 5 years ago, I went to the World Cup 5 or 6 years ago, whatever it was, when it was down in Brazil. And I went with these really high-end vice presidents of Vivint, it's a big company here. And they were so wealthy. And I love these guys, but they wanted everything to be so set up. They had like the nicest hotel. They had a personal driver the whole time. They had every meal planned out. And I'll be honest, it was the boringest trip I've ever been on in my life. Like it was so set. And it was like this high-end trip. I hated it. I was like, all I wanted to do was sneak out and go run around the freaking town and check things out, you know? And so like, it's okay to understand that like they needed that certainty, I guess, or they just didn't want to deal with it. But I was like, give me the chaos. Let me play in the chaos a little bit and find those are where all the fun and the funny stories come from. And so
Beautiful.
That's, you know, a good way to look at it is try to get outside of that.
I love it. Live in the chaos.
Yeah.
A little bit, for sure. Hey, so thanks for inspiring that in all of us, because you do. I want you to know that. And then I do want to dive deeper a little bit into your success, because Jimmy, you really are absolutely extraordinary. And, you know, you have the book, you're on your second book, you have this podcast. You're part of OUR, which is, you know, I know that Tony Robbins is involved with OUR at a very high level to help, you know, against human trafficking, which is so important in not only our country. You don't think that it happens in our country. It does. And then just worldwide. So what an important organization that you're a part of. You are opening up restaurants. You're killing it in real estate. You're helping other people rise too, you know, with your coaching and teaching. And so, you know, I would just like for you to share a little more of why you do what you do. You know, all of these things that are you doing that are high level, next level things. What is it that really drives you to get there? Like, share with us a little more on the business side of that.
Yeah, I think it gets addicting when you start to see how it changes lives. You know, I'll give you an example. My brother Dale started with me about the same time in real estate. And when he first started working for me, we made our first dream board, like when The Secret came out, like, you know, 12, 15 years ago or whatever. And we found that dream board about a year ago. And it was like, it literally had a car that was like, I mean, it was just such a plain car and such a plain house. And it was like, one day I'll go on a vacation to a beach with my family. And it was like, it was so beautiful and pure in its whole thing. But it kind of like, as we looked at that together, we realized like his, you know, like his life is so much bigger and grander than he ever could have expected. And it was like, we've grown through this thing together from the beginning. And it was like looking back and seeing, and that was a very real example of seeing where somebody's mind was of what their life could be versus like, as we grew together, he came with me on all these conferences and seminars and, you know, stayed with me through the struggle of the real estate market, like to kind of get to the other side of that. you see how it helps and affects people. I get a lot of messages from the people I coach. They start using my social media strategies. They start using my networking strategies, and they'll send me messages. I get them all day of, hey, I just got my first lead from Instagram. Check this out. Or I just got my first lead from a Facebook Live. And they're so pumped up. They're so excited. And it really does, like, you kind of know, hey, this is actually mattering. This is making a difference. My podcast, I get, we get so many views on that now, or listens. And dudes will message me like, dude, I listened to this podcast with this guy and I went back to college. I realized I need to do more with my life. And I think for me, it's addicting. I say there's a lot of things you can get addicted to. I'm addicted to, honestly, like, just doing good. I love it. I love to do good. My girlfriend laughs.
Amazing.
She goes, well, because I took my whole family this year. One of my dream goals by my 40th birthday was to take my entire family on a dream vacation. And they're all huge Disney fans. And I was able to book a Disney cruise to the Bahamas for 38 of us. My 26 nieces and nephews, all my siblings. Yeah,
and you did that. Like you covered all the costs for
everything. Yeah.
Incredible. I saw the picture of your whole family. I thought, that's a big family to go on a cruise with. But
yeah, well, and it was fun because, like, when we were doing the planning meeting, a family party, and when we left, my girlfriend, she said, something that I thought was really special. She goes, you let them plan everything. Like, this isn't about you. And I'm like, no, it's not. I just want to do something for the people that I love, And she's like, that's so cool, because I really can see, like, you don't care. Like, this is not about you. This is about all them. And those experiences, to be able to do those kinds of things, really is, like, what life's all about. And so I just encourage people, like, I think if people truly knew how much they could do, they would probably try to do a lot more. But you really do have to put in the effort. You got to do the grind. You got to put that effort in. And honestly, even when the market sucked, like, I look back in 2008, 2009, it was so hard to sell real estate, but it's nothing but good memories now. It's like, I worked so hard to get through that. And I don't work that hard now, I'll be honest, not like I did. At least not like the same way. It's a lot different kind of work
I'm
now.
sure you're way more productive than most people, but yes, I get what you're saying.
It's a different kind of grind. How's that? But it's so I love that kid, like my 26-year-old me, It's just like, when you're in the middle of it, you're like, is this ever going to get better? Is this ever going to end? I never had any money. I'm telling my assistant to hold his check. And it's like, it's such a grind, and you just don't know if anything's ever going to get better. And, but you look back, and I always said back then, I said, do this for your future self. You don't know what's going to come up. You don't know who's going to need you in the future. And I would say that was like my saying all the time is, do it for your future self. You don't know what's coming, but, and then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh, we've built something pretty special here. And so I don't know. I think when you say where does that drive come from? I don't see how I could not do it. Like, for me, it's I'm addicted to the success of it. I'm addicted to doing good and to having, changing people's lives and that stuff. I really am. I love it. I live for it. And that's what motivates me every day. So.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I relate. I like helping other people rise and helping them accomplish their dreams. So we share that passion. I want to end with a couple of questions that I think are going to be very, very great questions for our audience. And the first one is, what would you say to all the people that told you that you couldn't, to the people that told you that it was impossible for you to get to where you are today?
It's funny, like when I was calling those for sale by owners every day for several hours, you need a lot of things to motivate you to keep you going, because it is really hard when you're getting hung up on all day. And I would put pictures up of ex-girlfriends. I would put quotes on my wall of things people had said to me. I draw on that all the time. Like when I went and ran a marathon, I went and ran the New York Marathon 3 years ago, and I'd never ran in my life. In fact, even training, I never went over 3 miles. And I went to lunch the day before with my buddy out in New Jersey, my buddy Jeremy. And when I showed up, he started laughing. He goes, dude, you're not even in that good a shape. Like, I was expecting you to be like looking like all fit and stuff. And I laughed. And he goes, dude, there's no, and I told him my training. I'm like, yeah, I haven't really been running. I've just the last few weeks, I've been running 2-3 miles a day. And he's like, you can't just go do a marathon. He's like, there's no way you're finishing. And I'm like, oh, dude, like, do you even know who I am? I'm like, okay, they'll have to, like, anyway, long story short, I finished it. And afterwards, but the whole time, I was just kept telling myself like, oh, Jeremy, like I'll pull on anything, you know, like when I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro earlier last year, I told them before I went, I said, they will have to drag my dead ass off the mountain because there's no way I'm coming down without going to the top. And I just kind of like, those are the things I say to, so like people that are like, you can't do that or whatever. I try to draw on that to push me, but I kind of also like, I'm not that attached to the outcome. I just know I'm going to do it. I don't care how. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to negotiate with myself. I'm not going to talk myself into going to work every day. I'm not going to talk myself into going up this mountain. That's why I said they're going to have to drag me off it, because I didn't want to negotiate with myself. There is no option to quit early. There's no option to not do it. I'm just like, that's what I'm doing. Let's go. And then you just keep moving and you just keep going.
Incredible. And I thank you so much for sharing like the hardships and the journey, because I think so many people are always like, oh, Jimmy and his successful, and it was probably happened overnight. And it's like, nothing happens overnight. It is years and years of so much in the compound effect, and that's where the result is. So just sharing all the struggles.
People that met me over the last few years, it's kind of funny because like sometimes my friends will be in on a conversation. My friends that have been with me for a while and kind of know the whole thing. And they knew me when I was laminated the scripts in my shower and was chanting them every morning for 2 years. They knew me when I was getting up, and by 8 o'clock I was in the phones every day. And like, it's funny to hear when they like overhear other people being like, yeah, Jimmy just kind of like got these friends that have money and they got lucky and this and that. And it's like, they just laugh. They're like, oh no, if you only knew the amount of skill and hardship that had to, you know, practice and events and had to go into all that. But I think that's common for anybody. We look at anybody where they're at, and it's easy to go, oh, I want to be there. I want to do that. But, you know, you don't look at the journey to get there. And honestly, it's like climbing a mountain in the sense, like if Kilimanjaro, if I was only doing that to get to the top, like if you're at the top for like 30 minutes, it wouldn't have been worth it, any of it. But if you can fall in love with the entire adventure, if you can fall in love with the struggle, if you can fall in love with the night we started at 11 p.m. and hiked till 10 in the morning, that is the beauty of it. And if that's the key, is really falling
enjoying
in love
the journey
with the whole process. Yeah.
I love it. The second and final question is, you know, I really, and I know it's important to you, living a legacy, right? Like being towards the end of your life and you knowing that you did everything that you wanted to do and that there are no regrets. And so, you know, and sadly, we all heard about Kobe Bryant yesterday and what a tragedy that was. And I think he's a perfect example of leaving such an important and powerful legacy. Like he really inspired so many and lived his life to the fullest. And so I want to ask you, you know, what is the legacy that you would like to leave?
Yeah, I think for me, again, I don't have this expectation of what my life needs to be a legacy or anything like that. I think it goes back to my life motto. I want to show people, you know, what it's like to love, to share happiness, and to live an extraordinary life. I want to inspire people to live an extraordinary life, whatever that means for them. So for some people, you know, that might be doing some of these fun adventures and travels. For others, that's being the best baseball coach to their kids or football or whatever that might be. Like just helping people understand, like in life, like it's funny. I always struggle with this. It's like, we only got this one life. Like even if you believe in an afterlife or other life, whatever you believe, it's not the same as this. Like this is it as far as this goes. And so I'm just over here, like, I'm just going to enjoy every part of it. I lived 10 lives by the time I'm, 40 years old. I've done more than most people have ever dreamed of. And at the end of the day, for me, I feel like I'm just getting started. I don't know where my path goes. I don't know what my legacy will end up being. I just want to inspire people to do, to live an extraordinary life. And it truly is, like, I really see it as like, I have no attachment. I don't need this to be anything, but at the same time, like, I know the value of what I can leave and what I can do and who I can inspire. And I take that not lightly. And so I try to honor that with what I do each day.
Oh, thank you again for your time. Thanks for being that inspiration to many of us and for being a great example of living your life completely fulfilled. And you really empower a lot of people. So I hope that you know that. And just for, for our listeners, I would love for them to continue to follow your story. It's so powerful, amazing, inspiring. So why don't you share with us where people can continue to follow your story? Maybe your Instagram handle, Facebook, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, my favorite, I mean, I use Instagram to share my life, but also if you're interested in, seeing some of the trainings or the free stuff, I give away a lot of the stuff I give away is free, to be honest. But Instagram is the place to follow me. It's Mr. Jimmy Rex. And on there, I'm always sharing, what I'm doing. I'm trying to create value always. And then through the stories, I try to share my life and kind of let people come on the journey with me. So that's the best place, Mr. Jimmy Rex. And on that, if anybody ever has questions, I try to always get back to people that reach out to me on messaging. Send me a DM on Instagram. And I love to hear from people. I love to, answer questions and to see what they're doing and to be able to help in any way I can.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time, and we truly appreciate it. And I wish you the best in your journey. I'm definitely going to continue following your story, and however I can be of support to you, I will be.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time, and it was fun to come on. Thanks, Maria.
Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.